Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. I think spring is definitely just around the corner, if not arrived, for the moment here in the UK. Beautiful, sunny, blue skies, although it can be a bit chilly in the morning and the evening still. So it's not quite time for my spring summer wardrobe, but definitely time for spring summer makeup. And I didn't get round to showing you what I got from the Chanel spring summer collection, which came out ages ago now, didn't it? I have actually worn the items, I think, yeah, because I was fairly strict with myself, although I was tempted by a number of these single eyeshadows, which were the main kind of feature of this collection. In the end, I only went for two. I dithered about, well, I'll show you the ones I got and tell you about the ones I dithered about. I went a bit matchy-matchy, really, because you know I always get the nail polishes. Excuse the state of the nails. About to re-manicure, but I just left this on because it is, in fact, that nail varnish, which is the part of this collection, Poet. Come back to that in a minute. But in view of the two nail polishes, I ended up getting the two matchy-matchy eyeshadows, Ombre Essentielle. This one is called Pêche Glacée and is a satin, and I have worn it, although, well, you can tell I have worn it a bit, not a huge amount. It's a really pretty, when it says satin, it almost looks as if it's got some kind of glittery texture in the pan. It's nice and soft, and you can see is kind of, certainly on the fingers, a bit close to my skin tone. And it just gives a very pretty, slightly sheeny, which I suppose is satin, gloss to the eyelids, really. It's definitely a kind of one and done shade. I think it works quite well with blue eyes and pale skin like mine. I'm not sure it would be a must-have for anyone, really, or certainly anyone who didn't have that colouring. But it's pretty. I like it. I've worn it. I do find myself really torn these days because I'm still really attracted to buying eyeshadows. It tends to be eyeshadow and highlighter tend to be the two things. Excuse me, I've got the aftermath of another COVID attack. I tend to be really attracted still when I'm looking at collections to eyeshadow palettes in particular, with, you know, a beautiful array of three, four, five colours. But I don't find myself doing complex eyes now, partly because my eyes are quite crepey, being older. They've always been slightly hooded, and obviously that's not something that's improved. So I'm finding that I'm increasingly attracted to a kind of one and done that allows me to give myself a bit of definition and hopefully depth, without attracting too much attention to the eye area. And frequently, I just don't wear eyeshadow at all these days. So I definitely am going to have to kind of rethink my purchasing habits. But I have found that I've got reasonable value out of singles now, so I do look at those a bit more. I got another one from this collection called Monfalot, which is a bit more adventurous. You know me, I do love me a green, even though it's not a natural colour for blue-eyed people to wear. But this is very pretty. Another satin, I think. We'll check it when I go back. Again, you can see this is a much more potentially dramatic look, although you can sheer it out until it's almost just kind of silvery colour on the eyelid. So it's very wearable. I do find this particular one doesn't wear brilliantly without a primer, which I often forget to put on. It kind of, I don't know, there's something about this one and the texture of my eye that makes it wear off rather patchily. So I have to be a little careful with that. I don't know if that's a problem everyone would have, and it's something to do with this particular formula colour. I don't know if anyone else has got this one. Let me know. Yeah, so I have worn that one as well. Not as much. And then I decided to get one of the other colour that I was attracted to before I move off of the new releases there was a really pretty violet. Again, not a colour that I wear a lot, and that there's been a lot of violet purples, mauves around lavender this year. And I think I showed you the Betty palettes that I ended up getting, obviously, sometime after this Chanel collection came out. So I'm glad in retrospect I didn't shell out the other 36 or 40 pounds, whatever these singles cost, on lilac, because there are 3 in that Betty palette, which is more than enough for my needs. I did end up getting one of the waterproof Stilo. This one is called Vert Lagon, and it's weak today. This is it. So you can see it's a very much deeper green than the Vert. I don't know quite, I must have known that when I bought it, but it didn't quite register, because when I look at my stash, I've got a lot of greens from Chanel, and there's not a lot to choose between them. This one is actually my favourite. This is Merciaro. Must have been one of the Italian collections. You can see I've used quite a bit more. It's more kind of greeny green, grassy green, rather than teal green. I mean, if you're going to go for green, right? It's not naturally the easiest colour for blue eyes to wear. I don't find myself wearing liner as much these days, and if I do, it tends to be on the top lid and then kind of blurred out instead of eyeshadow. So I do that. I have actually, if I had again bothered to look at my stash, got a perfect match for the eyeshadow, which is a Victoria Beckham liner in Seafoam. Not that end. I always go for the wrong end with Victoria Beckham. Her liners are excellent, if anything better than Chanel. You can see that is in fact a very good match. And I've had this for ages, so quite why I didn't look in my stash a bit more carefully. Got to do that in future, right? The polish to go with all this is this one, which is called Artiste. I have worn it. It's not a textured one. It's a pastel cream. Really, really pretty. I think this is a lovely summer colour. Short nails, really, for this one. Yeah, it's a good formula. I looked in my immense Chanel nail polish collection, and actually I didn't have much that was like it at all. There's this one, which is called CC Green. Not that old, a couple of summers ago, I think. They're quite close. You can see possibly that the current one is just a little bit darker. I can remember wearing CC Green a lot, and you can see I've used quite a bit. So if you had CC Green, you want a replacement. This is quite similar, but you probably don't need both. And then I thought long and hard about getting this one, which is Patchly on my nails. This is actually well over a week, so it's not a reflection on how dreadful the formula is. It's chipped like that because I've been doing all sorts in the last 2 days and couldn't be bothered to take my nail varnish off. In a sense, it was a bit of protection for the nails. So this one is called Poet. And I know from long experience that I have to be slightly careful with these colours. They don't really tone well with the natural colour of my hands. And this one made me think immediately of a very old now, I think it's 2010. It's not that one. Which one is it? No. Here we go. You can tell it's old because it's still got the name on the front. June. It was an amazing collection of April, May and June, which reminds me, I must get out the April one, which is a beautiful pink berry, which I try to wear every year in April. And then May was a very pretty baby pink, bright pink really, Barbie pink actually. And then June was this one. Much thinner formula in those days. And of course, it's an old polish now. And this one, I can remember being really disappointed how awful it looked on my hands. And it's one of that collection I've worn the least. Now, having said all that, I seem to have bought quite a few of similar colours of these. The nearest one is called Utopia, which, again, I think is a relatively recent, slightly lighter. And then slightly pinker, which are easier for me, are two Coquillage and Pastel Sand, which I think came out very close together. And honestly, I suppose this one looks a bit more orangey. I'm much better with a true orange rather than these kind of pinky corals. But they are pretty and they are very summery. And in fact, although you can't see it now that this is kind of worn down so badly, when I first applied it, it did have a faintly kind of fluorescent look, which the others don't have. I don't think that's deliberate, and it doesn't look like that in the bottle, but it definitely had that effect. So I certainly will wear it. I must start wearing these polishes more regularly because the collection's getting out of hand, and I'm determined to be more discerning in future. So those were my summer purchases. I still have other Chanel things to show you, and even to try, it has to be said. But I am catching up slowly. So let me know in the comments if any of you bought into this collection, what you thought, and I shall speak to you again soon. Bye for now.